2010 and got the Bachelor of Commerce major in finance and economics from the same university, University of Melbourne in 2008. So he have some publication, of course, and I will just to read the three of them. The first one, Corporate and Commodity Takaful in Journal of the Indonesian Mathematics Society. Second, Islamic Microeconomics in Introduction, Routledge, and a contract theory approach to Islamic financial security with an application to diminishing musyarakah, Journal of Risk and Financial Management, 14. And he also be a presenter in some conference and seminar in 2021, 11 Foundation of Islamic Finance Conference, the paper, National Takaful Reserve Management Strategies Under a Pandemic. In 2020, webinar Matematika Keuangan, Syariah, Kakak Matematika Industri Keuangan dan Keuangan ITB. For the paper, Behavior Model for Finance and Islamic Economy. In 2017, 9 Foundation of Islamic Finance Conference in Lancaster. The paper presenter, a simple demand supply model for Islamic finance securities and Islamic finance development in a changing environment in Adelaide, Australia, in 2017 for the paper title, Simple Mechanism Designed for Islamic Finance Security. Okay, now please welcome Lukman Hanif Arbi, Ph.D.
All right. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to dear MC Aluki. My name is Dr. Lukman Hanif Arbi, and I will be here today presenting about basics of Islamic microeconomics. My computer is not very strong, so you can see that the Zoom correction is not the best, unfortunately. So yeah, all right. So if it becomes too much of a problem, I'll probably just turn it off. Yeah, especially if it becomes a problem for everyone's computer. So I asked the committee if it's okay for me to share my slides at the start, and they said it's okay. Now, the reason I'm doing this is even though the topic is Islamic microeconomics, yeah, you can see that I think from the way the things I publish, that it's my version of Islamic microeconomics is very based in mainstream microeconomics. And this isn't just some weird methodology. The first thing I need to prove today is that that's fine, right? Because when we talk about economics, whether at ITB or UI or UITM or Malaya or IUM, or even in Durham, where Dr. Wahyu is from, the basic idea is always that what we call the economic principle. Yeah, achieve maximum benefit with minimum cost. Now, people, our parents, our grandparents, they got the wrong version of this principle, which is what is it? Maximum profit at almost no cost, as if to say that conventional economics is about self-interest and greed at the expense of others. This is a misunderstanding. Yeah, this is probably said by people who didn't study economics very well, but were very rich, right? So unfortunately, intelligence and wealth do not always come together, right? So the first thing I need to clarify is how mainstream economics works. For those of you who already have a strong grasp of mainstream economics, I've shared my slides. Feel free to download them and skim through to see what's new. Well, how is Islamic microeconomics different? Okay. All right. So let's begin. I think. All right. Let's go to the slideshow mode. Can everyone see my slides, or yeah?
Yes.
Yes, slides are good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yes, I'm from the University of Indonesia. As the MC Kang Luki has said, I'm from the management department of the Faculty of Economics and Business at Universitas Indonesia. More specifically, I'm based in the Masters of Management, which is our version of the MBA, but I also hold the International Studies program for the bachelor students. So as we say in Indonesia, I have two legs, right? Saya punya dua kaki, yeah, in two places. Just a brief overview of what I want to discuss today. Yeah, first, as I said, I need to clarify what we mean by economics and specifically microeconomics. And the rest of my presentation today is just the main topics in microeconomics. Now, this is a lot for 2 hours. Yeah, I plan to only speak for 1.5 hours, and then maybe 30 minutes question time. Yeah. Most people, when they teach Islamic economics, they only make it up to the third point, and they skip the first point. Yeah. So how we'll do this is I'm going to make it up to rationality, and then I'm going to stop. Yeah. I'm going to take questions for 10 minutes because this is all about the conceptual things, right? On a conceptual level, what's the difference? I need to do that because if you're not ready, if you have not studied economics properly, the next 4 topics can be very difficult. Not because they're very technical, but because they're very complex, right? Because it's a theory about many things done by many people, right? And what patterns emerge. Yeah. So I recommend you take a break here, grab a drink of water, take a power nap if you have to for 10 minutes. And don't ask questions, just maybe sleep for 10 minutes. Because if you're not used to it, this is the last 4 parts of this presentation can be very difficult. Yeah. And I will have questions in the slides. Yeah, please pay attention to those questions because part of this course is there is an assessment component. I don't ask for anything too technical. I want you to think about this topic on a conceptual level. It's more about the ideas. Yeah, we'll worry about the technical stuff some other time. But I want you to think about the concepts. Yeah. And I want you to apply them, and I just want you to present them in a video. All right. And by all means, if you rather do this in a group, please do so. I recommend groups of 3 because otherwise you'll have people doing very little work. All right. Because I think it's a very important skill to be able to explain what you just learned. Yeah. So I think that's a good summary of what we're here for today. Okay. So please hold your questions until I finish this topic. It won't take very long. Yeah. And then feel free. Or, because this is Zoom, you can store your questions in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So let's first talk about what economics is and why I'm so comfortable using mainstream economic methods for Islamic microeconomics. Yeah. The basic definition of economics is the study of the interaction between economic decision-making and the surrounding environment. This is me paraphrasing from a book. Yeah, I didn't cite the book because it's not a very good paraphrasing because I expanded the definition. This is from Pindyck and Rubenfeld, Introduction to Microeconomics, 2019. This is one of the standard textbooks. It's a very good textbook, so I recommend using it if you just want a very introduction, because they cover a lot of topics, and that is the first and the last textbook you need for basic microeconomics. You can apply it to anything, yeah, and they give you enough technical details to understand how things work, yeah, how to speak like a proper microeconomist. Now, my question is there anything wrong with this Islamically? Is there anything against the Islamic law about studying the interaction between economic decision-making and the surrounding environment? That's my first question to you. Does anyone want to try answering, right? Is there anything un-Islamic or prohibited by the religion with regards to this field of knowledge? Yep. I'll count to 10. In the meantime, feel free to post your opinions in the chat. 1, 2, 3. Okay, no comments, that's fine. Yep. And, you know, if you decompose this definition, if you break it down into smaller parts, you can see that as part of this field of study, we focus on decision-making and interaction between economic agents, right? If this is prohibited under Islamic law, then you're not even allowed to ask what's the price of anything in the supermarket, right? Because that is the most basic thing we discuss, one of the most basic things we discuss in microeconomics, right? But more importantly, we discuss the allocation of resources. If this is against Islamic law, then we need a new holy book. We cannot use the Quran, right? Because there's many ways discussing allocation of resources inside the Quran, right? وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. You know, by time, everyone is in loss except for those who believe. Yeah, for those of you who are Muslim, you know this as the chapter about time. Yep. When is in loss, except for those who believe, who do good works, who advise each other, wasaya, berwasiat, saling berwasiat, saling memberi pesan, right? Advise each other in truth, and in persistence, perseverance. They don't stop doing it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's there in the Holy Book. So you cannot say that by definition, mainstream microeconomics is prohibited. And this is a very important point because Dr. Wahyu yesterday gave you a very good list, which is the list of popular Islamic finance articles according to the ABS ranking. Yeah. He took some journal articles. I ranked them by the level or the score of the journal according to the ABS ranking. Yeah, the standard. So we use Scopus, right? In the UK, they have what's called ABS. Yeah, and the two journals that are I think some of the more serious or more specialized in Islamic finance and economics. The first one is I think Middle Eastern Journal of Finance and Economics or something like that. It's a very good journal in terms of, I think, the articles they cover. And it's also, I think, at least Q2 in Scopus. The other one is IES, King Abdulaziz Journal of Islamic Economics. Now, I mentioned that because it's recognized by the American Economic Association. Now, when a journal is now what you need to know about the American Economic Association is that's where all the Nobel Prize winners come from. Yeah, so Dr. Wahyu mentioned that there are maybe 8 Nobel Prize winners and 4 Nobel Prizes. I wanted to add one more, 2022, Dybvig and friends, yeah, who talked about banking theory and financial crises. It's funny how those two go together, right? Yeah, so this journal, King Abdulaziz Journal of Islamic Economics, is, even though it's not very popular, I think there's a lot of important articles that come from there. Yeah, including like the foundations of Islamic economics, historically and conceptually. Yeah, and a lot of very good authors also published there. But you know, when you look at their recent articles, or there's this long discussion from 2008 to 2019 about how there's something wrong with mainstream economics, they don't discuss any of this, right? And this is very important because if you take a course in Islamic economics, and their first assumption, you read a book or you take a course and their first assumption is mainstream economics is wrong, then you need to question who wrote the book. There's a very big chance they didn't even study it. And this is not how Islamic academics work. Yeah, the paragon, quote unquote, of Islamic academia, career professional academia, is a person who we call Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. And he's famous, among other things, for his refutation of philosophy, very technical subject, right? But he didn't just say that it's prohibited. You know, he actually studied it and he dissected it. And he said, this is okay, this is not okay, right? If your academics don't do this, then they're not very good academics, right? You cannot just take an idea and say it's wrong, right? Unless they're very, like, for example, cryptocurrency, right? We had the discussion yesterday. Now, Dr. Wahyu, to Dr. Wahyu's credit, he's very well read, right? And, you know, probably more well read and more active in the field than me. Yeah. And this is not me saying anything bad about him. What I'm trying to say is he's done his research and he has a stance on cryptocurrency, right? And I've also done my research for what it's worth, and I have my own personal perspective on cryptocurrency. And I say, well, Dr. Wahyu discussed this before. It's currency. Yeah, you use it to buy and sell things. That's fine. But if you start using it to invest, yeah, now we're moving to my personal opinion on cryptocurrency. If you're investing in cryptocurrency is like investing in foreign currency. You can't do it. You're not allowed to do it unless it's for the right reason. Why? Because it's currency. It's a ribawi good, which means what? If you use it for speculation, or if you buy and sell it at different times, which is what you have to do to earn a profit. If you want to earn a good profit in currency, that's what you do. You buy and you hold, and then you sell. Then you're not allowed to do this because it's riba and nasi'ah. You buy it and then you sell it at a different time. Yeah, because currency needs to be bought and sold on spot, right? Which is according to what Dr. Wahyu said. Anyway, this is about currency. It's a long topic. That's what we're here to talk about, right? So, but microeconomics, we talk about decision-making and interaction. We talk about allocation of resources. We talk about objectives of decision makers. And we talk about the feedback between these decisions and the surrounding environment. Yeah. Now, those of you in business, if this is not really what you're interested in, yeah, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Because your business, you're more about the now, you're more about the practice, not exactly the theory. It's good to know the theory, but only just to get a general idea of how things work. That's fine. Yeah. But if you're a researcher, yeah, if you're one of those students who is thinking about doing your final year research project on optimization, then these are some very important ingredients, right? This is like, we had a chat, yeah, me and Dr. Gantina some months ago. He says, I don't understand economics, but I understand vector calculus. I'm going to show that this is vector calculus, right? So if any of you are thinking of doing that, you're going to get some of it. I'm not going to tell you everything, yeah, but you're going to get some of it. Now, what's a classic example of microeconomics case study? Well, we have what's called durian storm. Yeah. Now, the majority of people here are from Indonesia, and people from Indonesia have this expression durian jatuh, right? Durian jatuh. I don't know if you have this expression in Malaysia. Do you have this durian jatuh? The expression means that you got lucky. You won the jackpot. Yeah, so imagine that there's a durian storm. There's lots of durian falling out of the sky. Yeah, just watch out. Yeah, because it could be very painful. Right. So what's the case study? A lot of people got lucky, and we say there is a massive or pervasive income shock. A lot of people in the economy suddenly got a huge spike, positive increase in income. Now, how does the analysis work? We start at what we say equilibrium, business as usual. Yeah, and yeah, we know that the market doesn't always exactly work this way, but as a thinking model, it really helps. Yeah. So we start at some beginning, and what you realize is that when people get more money, when people earn more, they realize that I can spend more. We call it disposable income. And when people can spend more, that tends to increase their demand. Yeah, the amount of purchases they make, or at least their aspirations, they start to increase, right? And when people start buying more, they start buying so much that the people selling these things, they either take advantage or are forced to increase their prices. Yeah. And therefore you reach a new equilibrium. Prices are high enough that what we say, the market clears. Everything that is produced is also bought, but at a higher price. Yeah. And this is the new equilibrium. So this is, what is it? This is what we say, this is the basic application of the microeconomics framework to some market phenomenon. Yeah. And this is acknowledged. Yeah, some people can cite evidence. Yeah, they look at the books of the Islamic scholars and they realize that they don't realize. They mention that this is also what happens. Yeah, when demand increase, when people are buying more, prices start to go down, or the prices don't go down, they go up. Yeah, or when there's too many things in the market, prices tend to go down, right? And this is one of the explanations. Yeah, that some people who study economics, they sat down, they thought about this, and they came up with a line of reasoning, yeah, a logical framework for explaining, well, this is what we think happens. Okay. Now, that's one explanation. Yeah. Different economic theories, it's a theory. Yeah. And people are diverse. Yeah. There are many ways. Go back to the definition of economics: interaction between economic decision and the surrounding environment. That assumes we know how people make decisions. And we cannot say that everyone makes the decision the same way, right? Different people make their decisions differently. And so different economic theories depend on different assumptions about the definition of economics. You take any one of these concepts, you vary them. Yeah. Some economists have some assumption about allocation of resources. Some economics, yeah, economists, economic theories have some assumption about what are the objectives of decision makers. Yeah. And some people have different assumptions between the feedback, between decisions and the surrounding environment. For example, early economics, they don't really talk much about this. But now you have environmental economics, and this is one of the most important things. Yeah. You have social economics, where when we say surrounding environment, we mean society. Environment is still in the background somewhere. People make their decisions based on what other people think. Yeah. Whereas in early economics, they don't care about that kind of stuff. Yeah. These are all valid studies of economics. All of them have Nobel Prize winners. Right? So we cannot say that this is just some weird theory that we're going to reject. No. These are different theories, and all of them have Nobel Prize winners, which means that their assumptions, their methodologies are recognized by economics academics. Yeah. A very simple explanation is, Keynesian economics, assumes that because of various factors, including imperfect rationality, early economics assumes that everyone is a genius, everyone is smart. Yeah. Whereas Keynesian economics, named after John Maynard Keynes, yeah, one of the big people in economics, especially because he's very tall. Yeah, he's a big person in economics. He recognized that it's silly to think that everyone knows everything about economics, obviously, and makes more sense. And what you'll see is that many Islamic economists, they prefer to be more like John Maynard Keynes. Yeah. He also assumes that prices adjust quite slowly, or what we call price rigidity. Yeah, because of the adaptation process. Yeah, people are suddenly rich, but some phenomena happen very quickly, while others happen over a longer period. So there's also this discussion about short-term and long-term. If it's to do with demand, it happens quite quickly, over a few months or even a few days. But if it's to do with supply, it can take years. Yeah. But more importantly, it justifies the assumption that prices adjust slowly. And so whenever you make economic policy, you cannot use classical economics. You can use the ideas, but you cannot assume that prices adjust instantly, right? So you do have to pick and choose. Yeah, you need to understand what's going on. You can't just say my madhab is classical. You can't just say that. Yeah. You can say that in fiqh, in Islamic law, but you cannot say that in economics, which means you need to understand what's going on, right? So, and that's why I'm going to spend so much time on this basic stuff, because if your basics are good, you can do whatever you want. I think so, right? And here's me talking about social economics, incorporating theories from sociology. Yeah. And we also have what's called behavioral economics. Yeah. And if you don't understand the difference, if you want to read more about the differences between economic theories, behavioral economics, one of the big people is Richard Taylor. So yesterday, Dr. Wahyu talked about Robert Shiller, behavioral finance. He's very good to read. He's a very good academic. Yeah. In behavioral economics, you have who's called Richard Taylor. Yeah. And his justification, incorporating theories from psychology to study and explain economic decision-making. Yeah. So the intersection between psychology and economics. For people like me, well, it's a decision-making science. It's about people. So psychology should be the basis of economics, right? But that was rejected for a long time. Now you look at Richard Taylor's explanation. He says, well, it's a decision-making science. And people in psychology have biases, and they have consistent behavior patterns. They make consistent mistakes. They have consistent biases. They have consistent behavioral patterns with regards to decision making. If they are consistent, it means I can throw people into a lab, I can perform an experiment, and I can use statistics to decide whether these patterns are consistent enough. Yeah, I can apply empirical science to social science. And therefore, I have the basis for science. I can say that this is a scientific fact. So if I can do that, why should I care about what the classical people think and what the Keynesian people think? My method, my results are scientific. It's a very good explanation. This is from his Nobel Prize speech from when he won the Nobel Prize in 2018 or 2017, I forgot. 2018, I think. 2017 is Nordhaus. Yeah. So you have what's called behavioral economics. People have psychological tendencies, and we should use our knowledge about those tendencies when applying economics, for example, to policy. Yeah. And he has a very good example of that. Yeah. The government consulted him. Yeah. So they performed an experiment. You want to stop people from throwing their rubbish, on the street. Okay. So let's use psychology and let's use economics, and we'll come up with this policy. And they did it. Yeah. So look into that. Richard Taylor fines for rubbish collection, something like that. Yeah. If we have time, I'll explain it or show it to you. Okay, so that's about the introduction to microeconomics. Hopefully that was clear, but if not, soon we'll get to question time, and feel free to ask questions. Okay, so the core of microeconomics really is about the decision making, and these are some various keywords. Yeah, I'd use what's the word? I'd use a word cloud, but I don't think the word cloud is representative. So I just took the textbook approach. This is what you'll see when you open a proper microeconomics textbook. You'll see people discussing rationality. You'll see people talking about cost-benefit analysis or consideration. You'll see the opportunity cost approach. You'll see information, yeah, because you need information to make decisions. especially one of the buzzwords today is data-driven organizations, data-driven decision-making. Yeah. You'll see people talk about expectations. Yeah. How information influences expectations. You read something and then that makes you think about something. Yeah. And lastly, you'll also see this word incentives, because you don't just make decisions based on raw cost benefit, but there are also other considerations. Yeah, if you take this decision, you can get something. If you take this decision, you get penalized, something like that. So the order in which we talk about decision making usually is we talk about cost benefit. Yeah. We talk about the cost benefit analysis first, but then we emphasize this thing called opportunity cost. Yeah. So the summary of the method is in these two statements. Yeah. You consider all opportunities, but you understand that each opportunity has what we call accounting costs and benefits. Yeah. So the classic example I give my students at ITB and at UI is, you're really hungry suddenly. You're really hungry. Now, option one, you leave this Zoom call to go to the nearest convenience store or go to the nearest warung or something like that, yeah, hawker shop, and you buy something. Plan B is you open your app, you open Grab or Uber or Gojek, and then you order something, right? So those are what we call two opportunities. And both of them have costs, what we call accounting costs, how much you actually pay, and they also have benefits, right? So this expands the decision-making framework. You're not just purely talking about money when we talk about economics. Yeah, people ask, what's the difference between finance and economics? I say finance is purely about money, but economics is about satisfaction, right? And you aren't always satisfied by money, right? So you are satisfied by satisfaction. Unfortunately, that's the easiest way to say it. Yeah. Now, opportunities tend to be mutually exclusive. If you go outside, there's no point in calling Gojek unless you really want to, right? You go to the store and then you realize that they only sell food, they don't sell drinks. So you order some drinks to be sent to your house, right? But if you go outside, then you might skip out on this presentation, which may have something you really need. So yes, you weigh the direct costs and benefits. How much is the cost of walking to the store? How much is the cost of using the application, of using your phone app to order? Because if you order through the app, it's usually more expensive, both in terms of delivery fees and also the prices they charge are marked up by the platform fee, right? Something like this. So when we say opportunity cost, what we mean is, first you consider each opportunity and find what is the net benefit of each opportunity. And then you choose the best opportunity. Yeah, the best opportunity is the one with the lowest opportunity cost. Yeah, and opportunity cost is the next best alternative, right? So opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative, which you have to sacrifice. Because if you choose one, assuming mutual exclusion, you have two opportunities, you can only choose one. The cost of taking one opportunity is the value of the other one, right? So think about it. A and B. Let's say B is more valuable. If you choose A, then your net benefit is minus, because you sacrificed in an opportunity that is more valuable than the one you chose. Yeah. So this is how economists think about decision making. It's not just financial cost, not just accounting cost, but it's opportunity cost. When you commit to a decision, what have you sacrificed to make that decision? More importantly, what other opportunities have you sacrificed to make that decision? Right? Now, so something to think about is, whatever religion or faith or worldview you have, whatever worldview you have, does this idea of sacrificing opportunities and choosing the best opportunity, is that against your worldview? Yeah. In the Islamic faith, to my knowledge, this opportunity cost approach is enforced, in fact. It's not just supported, it's not just mubah, it's not just, yeah, that's a good idea. It's enforced. Why? Because the second verse of Al-Asr is innal insana lafi khusr. Everything you do is wrong. Everything you do leads to loss, unless what you do falls under one of these categories, right? Opportunity cost. Yeah. So this is my impression of it. What you'll see is this is a presentation about Islamic microeconomics, but I don't go too hard on the Islamic side because, as Dr. Wahyu said, when you get too specific, yeah, you start to exclude a lot of possibilities and valid, valid ideas or valid positions, valid recommendations, and so forth. So this is my approach to Islamic economics and finance. I have to define first, what do you mean by Islamic finance, and we'll work from there. Yeah. And when we go to this thing called peaks and valleys, yeah, I'll discuss how it works. Because at first you're thinking, well, there's 4 different opinions on such and such issue. How can you have an Islamic economics that accommodates all of them? And I'll show you. Maybe that's why you need to study mainstream economic theory, because it can accommodate all of them, right? Okay. So let's move on to the final topic before I start taking questions. When economists talk about rationality, what they really mean is the decision-making process, how people make decisions. Yeah. So people have what we call tastes and preferences. Tastes is simply whether you like something, you don't like something, or it's meh. Yeah, you're indifferent, we say. You're neutral, right? Whereas preferences talks about whether you like something more than something else, or you don't like something more than something else. Now, this is the what's it called? This is the what's it called? This is the conceptual definition. This is the everyday English definition. But Dr. Gantina, let me tell you. So no. If you're a calculus student, when we say tastes, what we really mean is marginal utility, the derivative. First derivative is tastes. If the first derivative is positive, we say you like it. If the first derivative is negative, then you don't like it. If the first derivative is equal to 0, then you're neutral. So slowly, I'm showing you how economists bridge the gap between social science and, definite science, or ilmu pasti, more decisive or concrete science, quote unquote. Preferences is about measure theory. Why? Because you have a collection, you have a set of preferences, a set of members. That's right. You have a set of members where each member discusses whether someone likes something more than something else. And then you take this set and you give it a metric, a measure. You value this. Yeah. That doesn't mean much now, whether you're, just a layperson in economics or whether you have a postgraduate degree in measure theory. I still have no idea what he's talking about. It'll make more sense as things go. And and resource constraints, you don't just make decisions. The whole point of economics is you have both costs and benefits. You are sacrificing something to obtain some benefit. And we are finite. So most definitely we have constraints. We have resource constraints. Okay. Now, the big one, yeah, if you understood all of that and you can understand a normal microeconomics textbook, really the only thing stopping you from studying or doing research in Islamic microeconomics is this point. the core difference between Islamic economics and other economics is that Islamic economics has what we call a particular worldview. Yeah. And these are some keywords which appear in the mainstream literature, but are actually also in the Islamic faith. So these are Islamic concepts, but expressed in the mainstream literature. Economics of religion exists, that religion influences how you make decisions. Religion influences your tastes. It influences your preferences. Yeah? Your worldview. Yeah? Do you care about the environment or not? I didn't say anything about your religion. Do you care? Are you pro-environment or not? Yeah? Are you a humanist? Are you not a humanist? Are you a communist? Are you a capitalist? Are you a technologist? Are you a futurist? Are you a postmodernist? Are you a transhumanist? Yeah. You know, religion is just an example, right? Are you post-humanist? You thought that humanity could solve all of its problems, and then you realize that it's a futile exercise. And so you need to be a transhumanist. You need to be more than human to solve all of humanity's problems. Are you a Luddite? Are you anti-technology? So forth and so on. Are you a naturalist? Yeah, super anti-technology. So forth and so on. So other regarding preferences is another word for empathy, because classical economic theory does not talk about empathy. Yeah. And this is the problem. Everyone assumes that classical or neoclassical economics is the same as mainstream economics, and that all policies are made with zero empathy in mind, right? This is a very dangerous assumption, in my opinion, but that's how the world has been run for many decades. So think about that. Yeah, we call it other regarding preferences. When we say empathy is not the right definition, right? Other regarding preferences means that you care about others. In Indonesia, we have this expression SMS. Does anyone know SMS in regards to empathy or other regarding preferences? Sulit melihat senang, senang melihat sulit. Susah melihat senang, senang melihat susah. Yeah. Other regarding preferences means you can be jealous as well. Right? What about the economics of jealousy? Is that something that people talk about? Not really. Right? So economics is huge. If it has something to do with decision making, it's a valid objective research, yeah, in economics. Afterlife consumption. Guess when this paper was written and in which journal it was written? Who wants to guess? Is this a new idea or an old idea? And I'm not talking about an Islamic economics journal. This was a real paper published in a mainstream journal. Who wants to guess which one and when? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Throw out a year, throw out some journal. Or how about this? Where is the journal based in? Which country has a journal that published an article on afterlife consumption? Yeah, and guess in which year it was published. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. I'm going to count to 21. 2, 3, 4. Makes you wonder, right? We have ChatGPT now. Thailand, China. Okay, good. Thank you. It's very funny when I ask people questions. I mean, you have Google, you have ChatGPT, and you have my favorite Quran.com, right? But theological type journal in Indonesia, Thailand, China. Okay, all right. So we've got 3 answers. That's good. Now let's go to my web browser, and I'm going to show you the article that I have in mind. Yeah? Afterlife consumption. Azi Ehrenberg. These names are not Chinese, they're not Thai, they're not Indonesian. This isn't okay. These are modern papers. Okay. Ooh, Economics of Religion, 1994. All right, that's cool. So how about it? How about it? Let me just take this away. Maybe it's not afterlife consumption. It's afterlife consumption, but maybe that's not the title of the paper. Okay. My internet's pretty slow nowadays. Yeah. If your internet is faster than mine, maybe you want to race me. Okay, so right, we'll go back to this one. Apparently it's in direct consumption. Oh yeah, here it is. Ozzy and Ehrenberg's theory of lifestyle consumption, 1990s, 1975, said that the afterlife belief gave another perspective for us to consider about the afterlife utility. Whoa, right? And which journal is that actually? Yeah, in Western literature, yeah, Ozzy and Ehrenberg, 1975. Now, which country published that journal? Where is it? 1975. Ooh, here it is. Household allocation of time and church attendance, Journal of Political Economy. Which country is this? University of Chicago. In America, in 1975, the home of capitalism, two academics published an article about the household attendance of allocation of time and church attendance to do with afterlife utility. So the home of capitalism published a journal about afterlife utility in 1975. Okay, it's not a new idea, and it's not a strange idea. Yeah, it's only strange to people who don't think about that kind of thing. Yeah, but it's there. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Internalized externalities, faith-dependent preferences. These are quite straightforward, and we'll discuss some of them later. All right. So conceptually, when we talk about Islamic microeconomics or any microeconomics, really, this is my opinion that, well, if this is the definition of economics, if this is the definition of economics and specifically microeconomics, anything that affects this, yeah, should be a valid object of study under the field of research, right? Field of knowledge. Yeah. Well, anything that can affect your decision making, yeah, should also be therefore a valid, should be a valid, again, object of study. Yeah. Let me show you a more recent paper. Yeah, one that we're quite proud of, I guess, collectively. I want you to focus on the journal name. The journal name is Journal of Corporate Finance, Elsevier, one of the top 10 journals in finance. It's the Journal of Corporate Finance. And what paper was submitted and accepted? Yeah, bank liquidity creation and religious observance, evidence from Ramadan fasting. Yes. So this is one of the Islamic finance papers. It doesn't answer Dr. Wahyu's question today. What is the big topic in Islamic finance? This doesn't fall underneath it. It's an incidental topic maybe, unless the author develops it into something more substantial. But hey, it got published in the top 10 journal. People would kill to publish in Journal of Corporate Finance, right? And someone did it. So I'm just saying. Okay, so questions, feel free. Do we have any questions for now? Conceptually? Is there such a thing as Christian economics? Interestingly, there's an author by the name of Professor El Gamal. He teaches in Texas. And he wrote a book about Islamic finance and law. And one of the first things he says in the book is a conversation between Martin Luther, the founder of Protestantism, if I'm not mistaken, feel free to correct me, So one of Martin Luther's followers asked him, how do I make a Christian shoe? Yeah. And Martin Luther responded as a authority in the Christian religion, said, it's not about, a Christian shoe is not about what kind of shoe you make. It's more about, what considerations you made while making the shoe. Are you fulfilling the Christian values, right? When you're making that shoe. And the conclusion was, well, a Christian shoe is just a good shoe. It's a good shoe. Yeah, a shoe of good, right? Now, we cannot technically apply this definition to Islamic finance or anything Islamic in that sense. But it's so in mathematics, we say necessary but not sufficient. It needs to be good, yeah? But good, the definition of good in Islamic law is, as Dr. Wahi has discussed, as we have discussed yesterday, can be kind of complex, right? Any worldview, I think any faith, really, if you really, really, really look deep into it, there's a lot of very deep and complex ideas you need to satisfy before you can, because what you're doing is you're taking something that's general and you're putting a very developed worldview right next to it. Christian shoe, Islamic shoe, Buddhist shoe, right? You're basically saying that this shoe needs to embody the worldview. That's not a very easy claim to make, right? When you're able to do that, right? So when I talk about Islamic economics, yeah, I tend to be very general. Yeah, I know how to make it specific, but I also need to appreciate, and we need to appreciate, that it also has to accommodate other valid definitions of what the Islamic faith is and is about. Okay, all right. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, so unfortunately 1 hour has passed, I think, since the beginning. If it's all right, I'll continue. Yeah, we'll move on to more technical things now. Unfortunately, if you haven't had that rest yet, you should start now, or take a break 10 minutes from now, but I need to keep moving. Okay. All right, so this next topic is called peaks and valleys. Because you'll see, right? If you're a math person, you already know. Otherwise, just have a look. All right. Now, net benefit, by definition, is the difference between benefit and cost. This is a general definition, whether you're an economics person, accounting person, finance person, and so forth. Now, you can express this mathematically. Now, the main idea in this section is about translating, language, concepts, qualitative concepts, you can say, into mathematical expressions, right? It's not about the precise formula. It's about me proving that you can do that. Yeah, if you can say something in English that has something of mathematical relevance, chances are someone has figured out a way to write it in the language of mathematics. Right? This is the big idea. Yeah, hang on to it. Now, when you only have two possibilities, as we said before, you choose the one that gives high benefit, opportunity cost principle. But what if you have 5 opportunities, right? And the way I demonstrate this is with what I call the noodle shop example. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of my examples have something to do with food, so I apologize. Now, let's say you have a noodle shop, right? And the noodle shop, the cost structure, okay, we're gonna switch to my text editor now. I think, yeah, here it is, right? So you can probably tell that I use a Mac. Let me just get rid of the annotation because we're just gonna use the text editor. Okay, can you see my text editor? Vimtable.txt. Yep, can you see this? Is it clear enough? Is it too small? If it's too small, I'll increase the size. Yeah. So let's say the price, you sell noodles, we'll use Singaporean dollars, right? We'll use neutral. The price of a bowl of noodles is 3. Yeah. So, yeah, quantity of noodles, yep. And your total revenue, yeah, when you sell noodles is equal to what? Yeah. So you start with 0 usually, right? Yeah, let's just do it that way. I think that's easier. Okay. So you start with 0. Now, you're not selling any noodles. Each noodle bowl costs 3. How much in total? How much are you earning? Feel free to answer. What's 3 times 0? Okay. 3 times 0, feel free. 0, thank you. And how much are you spending? You didn't make anything. Are you spending anything? Let's assume no, yeah? So what's your profit? 0. Okay. The price is still 3, but you decide to sell 1 this time. So what's your revenue? 3, thank you. Now let's assume that your cost is 0.5. Yeah, it may cost you 50 cents to produce 1 bowl of noodles. So what's your profit? 2.5. Excellent. Good, good, good. Now, price is still 3. This time you decide to sell 2. How much money are you taking in now? 6. Okay. And let's say your total cost is now total to 2. Yeah. Okay. And so how much money are you making? 4. Okay. Excellent. Very good. Very good. Price is 3. Now you're selling 3 bowls of noodles. And how much money are you making now? 9. Now let's say your total cost is 4.5. Okay. And how much money are you making? How much profit, sorry? 4.5. Very good. And now you're selling 4 noodles, and your revenue is how much? 12. And your total cost is now 8. So how much are you making? 4. Thank you. Okay. All right. Now the concept here. All right. So my question is, on a given day, when we say opportunity cost, what we mean is you have a choice of 5 quantities of noodles to produce that day. Yeah, applying it to this context. My question is, which production plan, let's say, which production plan is the most profitable? We have 5 choices. Which one has the highest profit? One quantity. Okay. One only gives you 2.5. Right? Is there anything that gives you more money than 2.5? profit? Yeah, most profitable. Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, good. And we have alternative measures, right? The one that is most profitable is 4.5. Okay, and Audi and Zaki, you make very good points. In terms of, I guess, average profit, yeah, let's say, one, it gives you the highest one, because this is 2.5 divided by 1, whereas this is 4.5 divided by 3, right? Now, you have alternative metrics for deciding your performance. Now, we could discuss that, but I think that'll make things a bit complicated. So we'll leave that to another time. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what you now the economics people, yeah, said, all right, look, this is math, right? There's got to be some pattern here. If it's a recurring, consistent pattern, we can call that a theory. And now what they said was, hang on. If I took these numbers, yeah, this is 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. This is 3, 6, 9, 12. And this is 0.52, okay? Can I throw this into, can I make a graph of this? Hang on. Can I make a graph of this? Okay, so, all right, I'm gonna start up my software. This is gonna take a while. All right, while I actually load the software, if I drew a graph of this, what does it look like? Is it a curve or a straight line? Yeah, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. That reminds me of something. Is that a curve or a straight line? Oh, come on. Curve or a straight line? Okay, all right, I'll show you. Yeah, let's take a look at my graphing software here. It's very simple. Most of all, it's free, right? So y is equal to tr, type, line, color is equal to blue. Does that work? Oh, it's taking time. All right. So you can see, right? So the total revenue, if I plot this on a graph, it's a straight line. And how about the total cost, right? Lines, if I put x is equal to q and y is equal to tc, and the color, is that right? Okay, color is equal to red. What happens? What you get, okay, yeah, so you can see it, but I can't. What do you see? You see that, hey, hang on. The line is, it's a line, but the curve is moving upwards. Yeah. Now in economics, this is what we say: a line has a constant slope. The price is not changing. Yeah. So revenue will usually have a constant slope unless you get more complicated situations. But costs, the slope is increasing. Yeah, the gradient is increasing. Here it was 0.5, here it was 1, here it's 1.5 or something, and here it's something else. But whatever it is, it's increasing. And this is a pattern that they noticed. Yeah, for before the internet revolution, before 2001, you could use this, you could see these patterns everywhere. Yeah, I mean, people did research on whether this is actually true or not, but conceptually, this is what people saw. Yeah, prices are more or less that. Yeah, when you choose a production plan, yeah, you assume prices aren't going to change that much. Yeah, you have a product, it has a price, and that's going to be the state for the rest of the year. Yeah, but different production plans, yeah, have different costs. Yeah, and you are trying to find the one with the highest profit. Yeah, remember that the profit is the one with the highest difference between the blue line, yeah, the one with the highest gap between the blue line and the red curve. And you'll see that the gap is highest from here to here. And they said, is there a more systematic way of finding this gap? Yeah, and for that, we can go to the rest of the slides. Yeah, so noodle shop example is done. The total cost tends to grow faster than the total benefit. Yeah, the increase in benefit when the amount of noodles increases by 1 is called the marginal benefit. The increase in cost when the amount of noodles increases by 1 is called the marginal cost. Now, usually marginal benefit is larger at the start. However, at a certain production level, marginal cost will be larger. Now, logically, what that means, before I talk about these 2 points, is go back to the definition. When I increase production by 1, marginal benefit increases, but marginal cost also increases. At the start, marginal benefit is larger than marginal cost. At the end, marginal cost is bigger than marginal benefit. This was the pattern, which means there's a point after which the more you produce, the more you will lose. So there is what we call an optimal production level. Yeah. Now, going back to math, there has to be a point in the middle where marginal benefit equals marginal cost, because this is the same, but this is always increasing. So there's a point at which marginal cost overtakes marginal benefit. Yeah, if possible, there is a point at which marginal cost equals marginal benefit. And that's where we say net benefit is the highest. The profit is the highest. Mathematically, you take the derivative of the whole expression. Yeah, this is the mathematical expression for marginal benefit. Yeah, you derive total benefit over how much you produce. You derive total cost over how much you produce. Optimization is achieved when the slope is equal to 0. Yeah. When the slope is equal to 0, and that's true when marginal benefit is equal to marginal cost. So why is this called peaks and valleys? Yeah, let me see if I can do this here. I'm not switching to my thing yet, but let's see, does it work? Yeah. So you can see from my from our studio here. Let me just shrink it so that it's more easier to see. The optimum point is the peak. It's the top, right? Everything on the left side is increasing, but it's what we say increasing at a decreasing rate. If something increases then decreases, means initially it was positive and then it's negative. If something changes from positive to negative, it must pass the number 0 at some point. And that's what we say, yeah? When the derivative is 0, that is either a peak or a valley. And that's why this is called the profit maximization problem. You are choosing the level of production which maximizes profit. Is there any point in economics where I want to minimize a cost? Yes. I gave it away. Minimize something? The answer is yes. You want to minimize cost. You want to minimize harm. You want to minimize the probability of failure, right? And then you can convert an economics problem into a math problem. But you can see now that economics, yeah, is now not just a social science field, it is also a mathematics field. Because if there are consistent patterns in economics, how it works, then you should be able to express them mathematically, which allows you to use more robust, rigid, logical reasoning on the condition that you understand exactly what you're doing, right? Rigid means that it no longer applies once everything changes. And this is the problem. Our head of department has a very good saying. If reality does not match the theory, then do not change reality to fit the theory. Yeah, you change the theory to fit reality. That's the better approach to do it, right? And that's what development in economics is about. Has reality changed such that we need to change the theory? So I hope that's a very big point. The next big point is coming right up. Yep. Yep, I've already mentioned this. Yep. This is the big point of economics. If you understand this principle, you can do whatever you want. Why? Because this is the definition of the economics principle, the idea that underlies all economics since Socrates first talked about it 200 BC, yeah, to today. So economics is more or less 2,200 years old or something like that, yeah, 2,300 years old, yeah. With a limited budget, I wish to buy the combination of goods that makes me most satisfied. Yeah. Okay, you want to choose the optimal benefit. You want to minimize the cost. But you have constraints. Yeah. You can only produce. Yeah. Going back to the noodle shop example. Yeah. What is it? Yeah. Going back to the noodle shop example. Producing 3 bowls of noodles assumes you have enough materials to produce 3 bowls of noodles. Right? What if you only have materials to produce 2? Tough. Right? But that's why we extend this idea to include what we call constrained optimization. Yeah? Calculating profit is straightforward, but how do you math? And then you have the next problem. Wait, hang on. Okay, profit, I understand. But think about this problem. With a limited budget, I wish to buy the combination of goods that makes me most satisfied. But how do you mathematically represent someone's satisfaction? At its most base level, math is not just about numbers, it's more about patterns. So the question is, can you express someone's satisfaction as a pattern? Yeah. So if certain assumptions hold, the answer is yes. You can represent satisfaction as a mathematical function, which we call a utility function. What does that look like? It looks like this. Yeah. So if let's say I'm deciding between a combination of 2 things, burgers and fries, nasi lemak and chicken, noodles and noodles and sambal, noodles and meatballs, or whatever, right? If I have one noodle, my general example is rice and chicken, right? I have one rice and one chicken, and that makes me this happy, this happy. If I have 2 bowls of rice and 2 chicken, sorry, 2 bowls of rice and 2 chicken, I am this happy. So my question to you is, am I happier with more rice and noodles, more rice and chicken, or with less rice and chicken? Which one do I prefer more? Do I like 2 rice and 2 chicken, or just 1 rice and 1 chicken? If I follow this graph, yeah, this makes me happier than this. See, it has a bigger number. U is equal to 2. It's some number that represents how happy I am. See? Now what this graph says, yes, thank you. More. Yeah. The more rice and the more chicken I have, the happier I am. That's what this graph represents. Yeah. And I promised I wouldn't be technical, so I'm not going to explain how this graph works. But what you need to know is, this is a bit harsh, but you know you have a serious economics program when they actually explain to you how this works. Yeah, this is vector calculus. Yeah, they don't need to tell you it's vector calculus. They don't need to tell you all the mathematics behind this, but at least they tell you what this diagram is about, right? Now you see the blue curves and you see the red line. Yeah, usually I have to spend 1 hour explaining. This red line represents how much money I have and how much I can buy if I spend all of that money. If I spend all of my money, I can buy more than 6 bowls of rice. If I spend all of my money, I can buy 6 bowls of chicken. But I don't like rice only. I don't like chicken only. It would be nice if I have something in the middle. Yeah. How about 5 chicken and 1 rice? Okay. How about 4 chicken and 2 rice? Okay. But I am happiest. Yeah. So if I just have like 5 chicken and 1 rice, my utility, my satisfaction is only level 2. But if I have 4 chicken and, well, okay, if I have 3 chicken and 3 rice, my satisfaction level is 3. So I am happiest when I consume an equal combination of these 2 goods, right? This happens to be my preferences that happen to be able to be represented by a mathematical function. Everything you see here can be expressed in mathematics. So this is how economists think. It's not about the numbers. It's about being able to apply a very robust form of logic to something in social science which is abstract or qualitative. And economists have been doing it since World War II, right? So is it wrong for me to apply this to Islamic economics? No. And why? Because the people who publish in those Islamic economics journals, they already said so in 1992. Yeah. Aidit Ghazali and his collection of papers by various economists around Islamic economists around the world, 1992, compulsory reading whenever I teach a course in Islamic microeconomics. Lots of very good papers. Yeah. And it's all based on this, right? And they already say so. Look, the method is the same wherever you go, but the worldview changes depends on who you're talking about, right? So this is my main case about Islamic microeconomics. If you understand this, even at a conceptual level, you are well on your way to understanding how all of this works, and you can appreciate, it's more about the way you think, right? Even if you're not a follower of the Islamic faith, but if you can understand how this general idea that worldview affects decision making, you can apply it to everything. Yeah. At the office, when you interview, right, you ask yourself, I'm being interviewed. What do they want actually? What kind of worldview do they adopt? What do they value the most? Right? So when you enter the interview, you present yourself as, to your best ability, embodying whatever it is they want. Right? Now that's there's a very strong conversation you need to have with yourself, right? Do I want to be the person they want? Right? Am I sacrificing too much of myself if I be the person they want me to be? Right? It's a very deep question, right? And far beyond the scope of this topic. So I'm just going to mention it and feel free to think about it, right? So above examples, these are material things: profit, personal satisfaction. Can I apply this to the worldviews of religious people or those who adopt worldviews with very strong non-material considerations? Yeah, naturalists. Yeah, they say we should follow nature. Yeah, we should behave the way nature is, so we don't wear clothes, something like that. Does this apply to that? In my opinion, the answer is yes, right? Because this is how machine learning works, and you can apply machine learning to everything. So if we can use anything for machine learning, I don't see why we cannot use this for Islamic economics, right? That's another topic for another time. All right. Everything else is downhill. We only have 10 minutes. After that is question time. The rest is just ideas which are important, but I won't get into because it can be kind of complicated. Yeah. Comparative statics. Yeah. To talk about this properly, I need to show you the mathematical model, right? But I'm not going to do that because, yeah, that's probably not what you're here for anyway. Mathematical optimization can produce a rule which links control variables to parameters. See, right? So you see this. This diagram is called the indifference curve if you apply it to consumer theory. Now, what does this diagram represent? Someone is trying to maximize their satisfaction, their utility. Yeah. they only have a limited amount of resources represented by this red line, which we call their budget constraint. Now, what does this diagram represent? It represents what combination, it links the combination, the relative quantities of the goods, yeah, to the highest level of utility. When you do this, you already know you're getting the highest level of utility possible, yeah, when you apply this method. But then you're also asking, what it allows you to do is, okay, I know I'm getting the highest level of utility, and I need to find out what combination of goods gives me the highest level of utility given my level of income. Yeah, how much budget I have. Yeah, once you have this point, once you have this solution, this optimal solution, we say, you can start asking questions like, what if I move this red line? Yeah, or in math terms, what if I adjust the constraint? What if I increase the budget? What if I decrease the budget? How does that affect the combination of goods? And what else do you know about buying things? You pay things. When you pay things, you realize that, hey, everything has a price. At the moment, yeah, you can say this line represents the situation where the prices are the same. Yeah, the price of rice and the price of chicken is the same. Is that a realistic assumption? I don't think so. Yeah, it's more likely that chicken is more expensive than rice. So it shouldn't be this nice 45-degree line. It should be a very steep or a very flat-ish line, right? Depending on the situation. Yeah, and you ask yourself, well, what if the relative price of chicken becomes this high relative to rice? You know, how does that change the combination? How does that change the level of satisfaction? Adjusting these things, right, is what we call comparative statics, right? I have a plan. I have alternative plans, but if I commit to one plan, I also need to know how to adjust this plan when the conditions change, when my assumptions turn out to be not very correct, right? This is what we call, in economics in general, comparative statics. If the price changes, if income changes, how does that vary this decision? Yeah. I use the word parameters. Here, when I say parameters, I mean things that are outside, yeah? Because when I make a decision, there are things I control, yeah? Sometimes we call them control variables. And there are things I cannot control, I can only react to. We call these parameters. Yeah, I don't know if that's correct, but this is my understanding. Yeah. And, you know, mainstream economics, this is useful for policy analysis. Do changes in prices make people happier? If I need people to be happy, what can I do? Yeah, economically, I can change the price. As the government, how can I change the price? And then you start thinking, right? There's at least 4 ways to affect the price, right? Now, this is all about material things. Again, go back to the concept of worldview affecting decisions. Consider a case where someone has the option of consuming good things or bad things. Consider also that their tendency to consume good or bad things depends on their adherence to a certain worldview. What are the control variables? What are the parameters? How do their changes interact? What is their final effect on an economic agent's objective function? Yeah. So the head of our department said, are you happy with this? Okay. Now let me do something crazy, he said. This is the consumption of halal goods, goods with the halal certificate, let's say. This is the consumption of non-halal goods. Yeah. Does this still apply? How does this change? Yeah. You can start asking questions like, well, if halal goods are more expensive than non-halal goods, what kind of behavior do you expect? And then there's another thing that you need to consider as well. Do people care about halal versus non-halal goods? Yeah, that's why I say the strength of your adherence can also affect the shape of this curve. If you're a die-hard halal or die type person, then you know your curve is like flat or like that or something like that, right? It changes the shape radically because you won't consider a good if it's not halal. You don't care about it or you're against it even, right? So forth and so on, right? And you ask the question of level of adherence, and then eventually you get to the point, is adherence a parameter or is it a control variable? In the Islamic faith, we say things like hidayah. We recite verses like, okay, see, let me find it. Yeah, it's my favorite, 2969. Not my favorite, but it's one of my one of the ones I like, right? Let's go back to the browser and let me show you. Right? So what does that say? Right? For those who struggle in our cause, thank you. Those who struggle in our cause, we will surely guide them along our way, and Allah is certainly with those who do good. Yeah, adherence depends on how hard you try. So adherence maybe is a parameter, but it is influenced by something under your control, right? And this is a completely different topic altogether. Yeah, that's why, as someone who does research in this field, tell me what you want, and I will figure out how to model it, right? Because yeah, for some people, no, it's not up to you. Yeah, adherence, yeah, your level of faith, yeah, whether you're Muslim or not, if you follow a religion, faith is a question. Does it increase? Does it decrease? What affects it? What does it mean for me? Right? Right. And we say there is an X factor. Some people will say it's all X factor. Some people will say, no, it's all me. And the safest option is somewhere in the middle, right? But all of them have implications for what's it called? All of them have implications for your model of decision making, right? But here, when I say that you can tolerate a spectrum of possibilities of adherence about the worldview, mathematics makes it so easy. You say, instead of making a model for one of them, why don't you just make a model accommodating the whole spectrum? Because for mathematics, the difference between strict adherence and zero adherence is the number 0 and 1. It's an interval. So you just have one variable there that takes the value 0 and 1 inclusive. And if you're one of those people who says you cannot be perfect in everything, including disobedience to God, right? Then, okay, fine, 0 and 1 exclusive. Problem solved, right? So it's very possible, right? Those of you who don't care about this level of modeling, well, don't worry about it. Yeah, I never plan to discuss it in detail. But for those of you who think about it, I'm going to give you some ideas, right? Anything in depth is, maybe you can create a model that's more sophisticated than mine, right? I made one, sure. But yeah, like what's more important is here are the concepts. Here is how people think they come together. Now, what do you think? Does that make sense? You see them together, but do they come together in a different way? Yeah, for you? Yeah. Do you agree with how people structure this, put this together? Right? I mean, field's yours. Yeah, think about it. And if you want to, yeah, if this is your thing, think about it. Okay. And now we will speed through the last, social welfare, right? Early mainstream economics assumed decisions were made at an individual level. Yeah, that everyone doesn't care about anyone else. There is no jealousy. Yeah, there's no envy, but there is also no empathy. So they had to come up with this metric, social welfare, the interest of society as a whole. And this is also something that is subject to worldview, right? Some people say that social welfare should be egalitarian. If one person is different from everyone else, then the balance is upset. Some people are like full utilitarian. The social utility is the sum of everyone else's utility, which means that as long as aggregately everyone is happy, we don't care that a few people are unhappy, right? Which one are you more comfortable with? I'm not going to say. That's your business, right? And you can also use comparative statics to analyze the effect of individual decisions on society. This is the big one, right? Before, everyone assumed to be the same. Everyone made the same decisions. So all you cared about was, how does one person make the decision? I just assume everyone makes the same decision or behave the same way. But nowadays, we have game theory and arrows and possibility theorem. In game theory, we have the prisoner's dilemma and we have the tragedy of the commons. We're not going to discuss arrows and possibility theorem. It can make your head explode. Yeah, just look it up on YouTube and see if you understand it. There's a very good YouTube channel which explains it. So if you think that's good, go ahead. The prisoner's dilemma and tragedy of the commons. The basic idea is that if I pursue my own interest, like a good economics student, that's what I learned. I should take advantage of my opportunities. I should maximize profit, right? Yeah, this proves mathematically that actually it can be not good for everyone. Yeah, this is big because the old view is if you pursue your own interest, that's good for everyone and everyone's going to do the same thing anyway. But at least prisoner's dilemma, tragedy of the commons as well, but prisoner's dilemma is an easier example. If everyone pursued their interest to the max, yeah, it can be bad for everyone. Yeah, tragedy of the commons is the same. If everyone pursued their interests now, later on, everyone will lose, right? So these are two simple ideas relatively. Yeah, you can use a lot of math to prove classical economics, greed is good. And then with two very simple numbers games, yeah, you can prove that no, classical economics is bad, right? The problem is people don't exactly use, the problem with this, why I mentioned this in Islamic microeconomics is because you don't need to study Islamic microeconomics to know these. And I don't see many people talking about Islamic microeconomics and using these to strengthen their point. They all want to talk about maqasid sharia and things like that, right? Mainstream economics gives you enough tools to criticize mainstream economics, right? So it's stronger to engage with mainstream economics, no matter who you are, by using the language that mainstream economics has already put. As long as you learn the language, you understand the language, you can join the conversation. You don't need to create your own little enclave, your own little economics separate from the rest of the world, because this is not, your own worldview is already engaged with the discourse, right? So yeah, that's some very technical, philosophical, idealistic stuff. The last point is this thing. We talked about empathy and jealousy. Another big thing that Islamic macroeconomics does, right? Or, various benevolent moral worldviews, not just Islamic macroeconomics, they do what's called internalization of externalities. Externalities just means something I do affects someone other than me, but it's not relevant to me, so I'm not going to think about it. Yeah, the classic one, the negative example is pollution. When I produce something, there is a byproduct, and I just throw that into someone's backyard, into someone's pool, into someone's drinking water, but it doesn't affect me. I don't drink from there, right? It's not my backyard, so it's not my problem. Yeah, it's external to me. The good example of externalities is education, right? I'm on a scholarship board. I give someone a scholarship, but the benefits of that scholarship extends to more than just than the recipient. I give you a scholarship, you become smarter. Whatever human capital you can generate, yeah, whoever you interact with benefits from your learning, right? And so we say education is a positive externality. It doesn't affect me, right? It affects me somewhat, but there are also effects of education that do not affect me. It's external to me. Now, the Islamic faith, and again, various other worldviews, internalizes these externalities. I don't need to tell you, in the Islamic faith, you are like one body, right? When one of you is ill, everyone else feels it. Yeah, you cannot call yourself a pious person if you are full at night and your neighbor is hungry. Yeah, the fact that your neighbor is full does not directly affect you, and so it is an externality according to conventional economics. But Islamically, no, it is part of you. your neighbor is an extension of you. If there is a problem with your neighbor, to a certain extent, you have to fix it, right? So like various other faiths, worldviews also do this, right? There are things that don't look like they're our responsibility, but they encourage us or even command us to take responsibility. And mainstream economics has spent years of research trying to figure out how to do this. And for us, the solution is, yeah, just make everyone follow a religion. That solves all your problems. Yeah, something like that. So in summary, what did we talk about? Economics is about decision-making, economic decision-making. A person's worldview affects what they consider as costs and benefits. A person's level of adherence to a worldview may have significant effects on their decision-making. It is important to have a systematic and rigorous framework for analyzing interactions between aspects of one's worldview and external decision parameters, because just like the sentence, it's very complex. Yeah, it's not easy to keep in your head. It's nice to have a very systematic framework that you can go to and use, and self-robust, so you don't need to double check your work as much, right? Because you can't just say, well, I think. You think, but can you demonstrate objectively? Yeah? Having the correct assumptions about people's behavior is an important part of policy analysis, as the wrong assumptions can lead to policies which have the wrong effect. Effect, yeah, with the letter E, that's a typo, right? So this is also both the advantage and the disadvantage. If you're stuck, if your assumptions are wrong, if your logic is wrong, then your analysis is wrong. Unfortunately, that's the method. It's less flexible than some other methods of analysis, if you do it that way. Now, assignment required by the committee. I'm not going to ask you to do anything complicated. No calculus, no math even. Yeah, I just want you to demonstrate that you took away something from this, right? Just prepare a video explaining how adherence to a certain worldview may affect one's economic behavior. Yeah, the video must include answers to the following questions. Choose a worldview that has commands and prohibitions. Number 2, discuss how stronger or weaker adherence to the worldview may encourage certain behaviors while discouraging others. The easiest one is halal versus non-halal. Another good one that is very inclusive, no matter what your background of faith is, do you support companies that supply weapons? Right? Very classic, yeah. ESG thing, yeah. If you are investing morally, then one of the first things you exclude, for example, is companies that produce weapons. Yeah, that's not an Islamic thing. That's something that everyone does. Yeah, it is also an Islamic thing, but like it's not unique to as Islamic behavior. Yeah, and if you are stronger in this worldview, if someone is stronger, does that make them more likely to do that behavior or less likely to do that behavior, right? Now, think of it as an optimization problem. Consider the parameters related to the behaviors you have chosen, more typos. How do changes to these parameters interact with the behaviors themselves? What is their final effect on an economic agent's objective function? If they are more strict in their following, they will do things, but does that make them happier or less happy? Yeah, this is a problem that I discuss in some book somewhere, I forgot. But this is a very interesting problem that you cannot just easily think about it, right? It helps. I think it helps that you lay it out and really think about deeply, because there's a lot of moving parts to this. Okay, and with that, that's the end of my presentation. I can only hope that it was of benefit. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Lukman Hanif Arbi. Now we have a question and answer session. Do you have any question?
So what is the difference between
The
Islamic
question you can ask the question using chat, or you can ask directly using raise hand. there is a question.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Yes. Other worldview, any worldview is fine. That's the point, right? You can apply it to anything. No problem.
Any other question?
Okay, I think we still have 15 minutes, so we can wait a few more seconds. It's a very abstract topic, so it'll take a while. Okay, then maybe it's my turn to ask you another question.
Okay, maybe I'm interesting, sir, with your presentation in ex wait with externalities.
Okay.
Okay. So you say yeah, the externalities sometimes if we the differences with the Islamic economic, yeah, and conventional economic is sometimes for if we in conventional the trading when we
Okay.
trade some items or and for the seller sometimes it's not have to guarantee for the items maybe or like that. But you say if we use economic model, use Islamic economic model, the neighborhood problem is our problem. So in Islamic economic model, we have we do we have must have a guarantee for the item that we sell, right?
How do you mean when you say guarantee? Which one do you mean? Like
The guarantee maybe for the if we sell that maybe the items maybe is not good, maybe it's
right.
not
Okay.
good quality, so
Yeah. So Islamically, is that something we should have? Is that it? Is that good Islamic practice, is what you're saying?
uh,
Is that the question? Sorry, just to confirm. Okay. So is it good Islamic practice to have a warranty or guarantee for
yeah.
everything you buy? So this is, yeah. So if you go into the Islamic worldview, then you go into Islamic commercial law, fiqh al-mu'amalat, al-mu'amalah, yeah. Then you need to sell exactly what you say you're selling, right? So this is all about honesty. Yeah. Guarantee here is both in terms of what you say and also in terms of compensation. If you say you are selling oranges,
Yeah.
yeah, if you say that you're selling good oranges, then they need to be good oranges, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing, right? And then if you want to if you did not sell good oranges, then what's it called? The other person can take you to a court of law and ask for compensation. This is my understanding. But there's also a second thing that you need to consider, right? There is the definition of good. Yeah, what is the definition of good oranges, right? And this can be a very wide range of possibilities, right? For example, if you buy oranges at a certain store and they guarantee a quality, like we only sell oranges that are maximum 1 day old, right? Then you can ask for that quality, right? But if you buy oranges at like a general market, yeah, where there is no agreement on the level of quality, then that's a different story, right? I sell oranges. You didn't specify what kind of oranges, right? So this is the different. So like remember, this is what I say. Is the law or Islamic commercial law is about what's permissible and not permissible, right? If there is no obligation for you to sell oranges of a minimum quality, then you don't have to. Technically, it's not your fault. But best practice is to ensure that your oranges are at least good enough to eat. Even better practice is you check all of the oranges before you go to the market. You take all the bad ones away, you keep for yourself. In the Middle East, what some people would do when we have sadaqah, we give charity to people. For some people, charity is going to the market and buying all of the bad fruit, right? They don't give money to people freely. They see that, oh yeah, this is a market. Oh, this person is, some of the fruit is bad. What does that mean? If the fruit is bad, the other fruit will be bad soon as well. Nanti kematangan atau basinya cepat, right?
Yes.
So the way they do sadaqah, give charity, is they go to the market and they buy all of the bad fruits.
Oh.
Right. So this is So there's the law and then there's best practice, right? So we have to talk about this. And I say that Islamic economics is about optimal. It's about the best, not just about what's permissible is the constraint, but what's best is the best. Optimal is the best, right? So this is also something we need to so you can study Islamic law, but you cannot call yourself an economist because law doesn't tell you what's the best. It tells you what's permissible. That's the small joke, I guess, in the field. Okay. All right. Yep. I hope it was beneficial. I have the question regarding the total cost grows faster than total benefit. Means the economics of scale is limited to the example. Okay, very good. Your understanding is spot on perfectly. And I need to emphasize when I explain this topic, it was only valid up to 2001 when the internet started really taking off. What you say is correct about that economics of scale is one of the advantages that big companies will have because they have the money to buy big facilities which can produce things faster and more cheaply than SMEs, MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, because chances are MSMEs, you have to do everything by hand. You do not have $1 million to buy a factory or automate everything, right? So the question is, are there technologies with good economics of scale but are easily accessible to MSMEs? So, for example, does it make sense to crowdfund 3D printing? Yeah. So like, I don't know, some people want to create very simple or very affordable and very green, very environmentally friendly cups, or what do you sell, right? If you want to sell handicrafts, is it acceptable to sell 3D printed handicrafts? maybe like there's some patterns or some very popular designs, yeah, but how do you produce them? How do you take advantage of technologies with good economics of scale that are accessible to MSMEs, right? MSMEs like maximum, it's not easy to say now, but let's say a big company has hundreds of thousands of workers, whereas MSMEs usually only have 1,000. Yeah, they'll be lucky to get 100, right? Yeah, the fact that total cost is faster than total benefit is generally true, even with modern technologies. The only real exception, I guess, is information technology itself, because you only need one server to serve 1 million clients, and your variable, there is no variable cost. Yeah, there is only fixed cost, the cost of buying the server and the cost of the electricity, I guess, unless your load gets bigger, right? So what about can we direct MSMEs to more digital industries? Does that make sense? Or at least can they invest in digital technologies to strengthen, right? So okay, they still want to, as we say, I guess, menghasilkan sesuatu yang padat karya, ya, sell some visible concrete product, but how can they scale that business, right? Is there a very affordable, cheap way to scale that business? And people say, well, that's what digital marketing is for. You have two shops, one of them has a social media account, the other one doesn't. Social media account, local, has all the followers, can easily send out promos. Yeah, this week we have a special on apples, buy one get one free. Yeah, compared to the person who only has the corner shop and can only hope that passersby will notice. Yeah, and how can they communicate if they sell 1,000 things? How can they explain in a very short period of time that 300 of them are on sale? Digital technology, UX, UI, solves that problem for you. This is my take on it, Zaki. I'm pretty sure you have more experience on this. So if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to ask. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Maybe any another question?
Yep. No problem.
Maybe last one question.
Yeah, one more question.
One more
almost
question.
at 11 o'clock. I'm going to post some links in the Zoom chat in case anyone's interested. The first one is the paper about digital economics, which is the now, and you want to talk about Islamic economics of cyberspace, Islamic law for cyberspace. That's also something we should consider nowadays if you want to talk about that as a topic. The other one is Arrow's impossibility theorem. Yeah, this is the one. There's a YouTube channel I'm going to share in the chat. If you're interested in, how do I take this to the next level? Yeah, I'm going to share it as well. Oh, fun fact. There are only 5 Islamic textbooks I would consider using for teaching Islamic economics. Somehow all 5 of them are produced in Indonesia, so I don't know what that means, right? If you know a very good Islamic economics textbook, please feel free to send me in the chat, because I'm very interested, right? Otherwise, for the past, 20 years, only Indonesia has been producing proper Islamic economics textbooks.
Okay, if no question, maybe Mr. Lukman Hanif Arbi, can you give us closing statement?
Okay, closing statement. Very well. Hang on, let me see. Let me just make sure. So where was I? Okay. So with that, I guess just thank you for spending your time, taking time to let me share these ideas with you. I think they're very general, very applicable. At least I think they're useful as ways of thinking, yeah, as a thinking framework. I can only hope that it was beneficial, and I wish all of you the best in your future endeavors. And don't forget to fill in the survey, most important. It's just posted in the link.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lukman Hanif Arbi, PhD. Now, before we conclude our session, maybe I will invite you to open your camera to take a picture with Mr. Lukman Hanif Arbi, PhD. Okay. Please open your camera to take a picture with Mr. Lukman Hanif Arbi. Okay, I will count 1, 2, 3 to take the picture. I will take 2 times. Okay, the first one. Okay, wait. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, everyone. Don't forget to fill the absence forms in Zoom chat, and don't forget to doing your homework. Please do your homework and submit at the LMS, at our LMS FMIPA 19. Okay, so we will see you again tomorrow for another session at the same time, 9 o'clock tomorrow with another speakers. Okay, thank you, everyone. Good morning.
Thank you, Kamal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.